This video is sponsored by Squarespace. I think this is going to be a little bit controversial perhaps. What are your income sources now? By the way, that was free. Look how big this baby is. It's the last video of the year and I really just want to make a Christmas village and we're gonna tie it into a Q&A. So let's cover some topics today. For my Christmas village, I'm going to be using my very own templates. If y'all don't know, I have a side business making pottery templates. I actually have another YouTube channel that has the tutorials on how to do them all. This is not going to be a tutorial video. I just wanna use these. So what I did and what you can do, this is the standard size, this guy right here. What I'm going to do, because I want them to be all different sizes, I actually size them up and down. So the templates work at any size. This is 80%, 125%. Oh, and I also, I don't know if this is too small, but I also did 50%. So we'll see. Okay, let's get to the first question. So I asked these questions on Instagram. If you don't follow me there, you should follow me. Okay, this is a good one to start with. Someone asked me, where do I live? And then someone asked me, why do I live in Germany? And how long have I been living here? Let's see how well I can do this. I'm not the best multitasker in the world. I'm from US. I moved in Germany in 2014, in October 2014. So next October is going to be my 10-year anniversary. And I moved here because my partner is German. I had a visa marriage. I just got married because of the visa and I was 24, so I was super young. So it's a miracle that we're still together. I did move for him, but I also really wanted to kind of get out of the US. We originally tried to move him to the US. I'd been traveling in Europe because of him, and I was like, let's give it a try, I guess. I didn't think I would be moving here permanently, but I don't think I'm gonna go back at this point. I really like it here. Someone asked, which country do you like living in better? I'm gonna say this. There's a lot of things I miss about the US. The things I miss the most are, one, the English language. It's my native language and everyone prefers to speak their native language. That's just a fact. I miss a lot. So we moved to Berlin originally, and Berlin is quite known for people being blunt, straightforward to the point, which is a positive, but oftentimes it can come off as rude. And so when I moved to Berlin, I had a really hard time with kind of like the culture there. It was a little bit hard for me. But now, since I moved to the South, people are a lot friendlier down here. So I don't miss the culture of friendliness as much as I did. That said, in general, Americans are just chatty people. It's just a different culture here. People more keep to themselves. And my insecurity with speaking the German language does also make me feel a little bit like I can't speak up so much. This is something that gets better and better the longer I learn German, but it is a thing. I'm being super long-winded. The plan for now is to stay here in Germany. You never know, but there are a lot of benefits to living in a country that has more social services just in your day-to-day life, you know? So Germany doesn't have free healthcare for all. That's a common misconception. There's public and a private system, and you don't pay with your taxes, you pay out of each check. And it's expensive. That said, the amount of things that I've gotten from my healthcare, so I went through 3 years of immunotherapy. So for my allergies, I have really bad allergies. They're significantly better now. I've never looked into the prices in the US, but I believe it's like prohibitively expensive. I know it's way less common in the US, and it's a very common therapy here in Germany. I went through therapy. By the way, that was free. Free therapy. There's no such thing as co-pays. Like there are some things like that are not paid for, of course, like homeopathy and things like that on the public plan are not paid for. The German healthcare system is not as good as like Sweden, for example, or Finland, but it's pretty good. There's no such thing as, you know, like medical debt and stuff like that. Like it's just non-existent. Free, pretty much free childcare, maternity leave. So if you want to have a kid, you're going to be covered from when that kid is born until they move out of the house. There's also something just called Kindergeld, like child get money. You just get from the government. You just get it. So it's way more friendly for families. I don't know, it's a toss-up. Like I do think sometimes about moving back to the US. I don't want to trash talk either country, but there are a lot of like practical daily things that like if you are living a normal ass life in Germany, you are more protected. And that's something that I truly cherish as an independent artist. Trisha asks, of all the hobbies / trades, why choose pottery? I desperately wish I had some deep philosophical reason why I ended up with pottery, but I have to say it was a little bit arbitrary. It was because of graduating from university. So I did study fine arts in school. I was lucky to have one pottery class in school, but it wasn't my thing. I was doing other stuff. I was doing primarily metalsmithing. And the reason that I got into clay is because when I graduated, I didn't have access to any studios anymore because, you know, all the studios are through the school. And me being, you know, a broke post-grad with, this was like 2012. So the world was still reeling from the recession. And I had an arts degree, so I couldn't get a job. So I just worked random jobs and obviously could not afford to build my own studio. So I found a workspace in the only community space that was available, and that was a clay studio. And you know, I had been interested in pottery, so I was like, oh, this could be fun. I took a couple of classes there. I took a wheel class and a hand building class. That's primarily where I learned how to throw on the wheel. But those classes, I believe, were 8 weeks long. They weren't that long. So after that, I'm just self-taught, which is why I pretty much encourage everyone, like, if you don't have access to a class, you can figure it out on your own, because I did. Anyway, that's kind of why I fell into pottery, and then I was completely hooked after that. There was no going back. So as soon as I moved to Germany, I tried to find a studio to work in. It took a while for me to find a studio to work in. Clay kind of hooked me, and then it became my thing, and then, you know, it's kind of your thing, then it became my job, so it was kind of like, well, now I'm stuck. I'm sticking with it. I do still really love the other crafts, and I am very happy to just keep them as hobbies. Have I ever worked with wild clay? No, unfortunately. The thing about clay is, like, there's 100,000 bajillion things on my to-do list already of things that I want to experiment with. I've also never done Reiku. I have done one pit fire, but it was pretty much a failure, so I don't really consider that knowing shit about pit fire. I really would love to learn more. It's just I have other priorities right now. Along those same lines, a couple of people asked, do I make my own glazes? No, I do not. I have mixed one glaze myself. That was based off of a recipe that was made by a dear friend of mine. I don't mix my own glazes. I had that on my 2023 goal, is to take a class to learn how to properly do it. But I think now what I want to do is I want to just start mixing glazes. Like, I just want to get some recipes and just start playing around with it. Now it's magically transformed into a 2024 goal. But like, there's so many things to do, and you know, people who work with commercial glazes are still artists. And the reason that we use them is because they're way more predictable than self-made glazes. They're way simpler. You get like straight to the pottery instead of faffing around with the chemistry of it. Don't let snobs make you feel like any less of a potter just because you don't mix your own glazes, because I don't. God, I am so long-winded. I apologize. This video is probably gonna get like 3 views. Let's take a little break to talk about today's sponsor, Squarespace. If you've never heard about Squarespace before, they're a website that you can go to create your own professional looking website. I've personally been using Squarespace ever since I started my online business, and I'm still using them for my website today. There's a few things that I love about Squarespace, one of which is their online store where you can sell physical or digital products, just like I do with my printable pottery templates. 2, they have so many beautiful design templates that are super customizable, so you can customize them to fit your very own brand. And 3, you can cultivate a community with the members area, where you can sell memberships to exclusive sections of your website. So head to squarespace.com right now for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/potterytothepeople for 10% off your very first website or domain. Now let's get back to the video. Oh, can you tell us more about Peanut, please? Yes, I would love to. Peanut is my dog, if you don't know her. She's a little sweetheart. She is a rescue from Montenegro. I get asked probably like, well, every time I post Peanut on the internet, people ask what breed she is. She's a total mixed breed. We asked the vet what they thought, and the vet said probably part greyhound based on the structure of her body. She's very thin as well. And that's not because we underfeed her. Trust me, she eats plenty. Also potentially a shepherd. God knows what kind of shepherd, but a kind of shepherd. So we got her when she was 1.5, almost 2, I believe. Oh, this is really sad. You want to hear Peanut's story? She was picked up with her mom after her whole family got hit by a car. So all of her brothers and sisters died, except for Peanut and her mom. So her mom was with her at the shelter, and we don't know what happened to her mom, unfortunately. So Peanut was still like this big at the shelter. So she was picked up pretty young. And then she just lived her life at the shelter. She's incredibly sweet. She's just like a nervous dog, and she's probably always gonna be a nervous dog. She's way better than she was when we got her. It is what it is, you know, after a certain time period with these dogs, they kind of settle into who they are. And that's fine, because I'm also a nervous person, so I can relate to her. Will you continue the Throwdown series? I would love to do that. Thank you for your interest. The answer is definitely. I had heard of a new series coming out in Canada. I have a very important announcement. The Canadian Throwdown is happening. It starts February 8th, which means you can expect a video from me probably a week later. I don't know. I have some things to figure out. I haven't figured out the timeline yet or anything like that, but it's happening. I'm pumped. I have a few ideas for next year. So I'm in the process of brainstorming. I'm gonna take January off, I believe. I'm at least gonna take a couple weeks off. One idea, this was based on the concept of good artists copy, great artists steal. You know this concept? So the idea is that you take bits and pieces from other artists and obviously repurpose it through your own artistic lens and make something amazing. I think this is going to be a little bit controversial perhaps, and this is why I'm like a little nervous to do this series, is because basically I don't want to be accused of copying, but I think that people who accuse people who do these exercises as copying are a little bit misinformed, because this is how a lot of people are taught how to do art in school. So you take an artist that you admire, and what you do is by trying to recreate their work, you can analyze it and learn new things and learn new techniques in a way that kind of frees you from the expectation of doing everything yourself. Like you're learning from your ancestors. And this is something, you know, that is much more accepted in the craft community than it is in the fine arts community for sure. I think it'd be a cool idea, but I don't want people to misinterpret it as copying. So let me know if that's something that's interesting to you. So I could take an artist that I really admire and just straight up try and recreate the same thing. Of course, I wouldn't sell these pieces and all of the credit would go to them, but it's like, what can we learn by dissecting a potter? But then I thought something else we could do is take like a fine artist like Picasso or like Dali or something and say, well, Picasso did do pottery, but say, how would Dali make a mug? And then we could like, you know, use that as a creative exercise. I think it might be kind of cool. Oh, and another idea that I had is because of Instagram. So I get loads and loads of questions every single day, people asking questions about, you know, ceramics. What's going on with my glazes? Why are they looking like that? How to fire, how to do everything, you know, like people be asking me the questions. And my thought is like, I get a lot of the same questions over and over again. So my thought is like, should I have like a video series where I solve people's pottery problems or like try and answer people's pottery problems? Like, again, I'm a little hesitant to do this because I'm not like the best potter in the world. You know, I like to make pottery and I think I'm okay at it. I think the questions that I can answer, and the questions I can't, I won't. So like, I thought this could be a fun way of getting y'all involved more in the channel. Like, you know, you could submit your questions and I can answer them either through a demo or through okay, my pieces are cut out. The plan is we're going to assemble them and only then we're going to add the carvings and stuff. I do recommend this tool for slab building in general. I've talked about this tool before. It's my new favorite tool. If you don't have this, just cut at a 45-degree angle. How to make pieces safe for eat and wash, food and drink, and also for the dishwasher. I'm not gonna talk about this in this video because I have a whole nother video. I'll link it somewhere up here. I have a whole video that covers everything about that. it has to do with vitrification. Spoiler alert. How many different clays do I work with? I have a red clay. So all my clay is stoneware. That's all I work with. I have a red clay. I have a white clay, and I have a speckled clay. Those are the clays that I like to work with. And then of course, you know me, I'm always experimenting with like staining my clays and stuff. Like I think that that's a fun way to add variety. How's living in the countryside? This is a juicy one. So if y'all don't know, I used to live in Berlin and I moved here a little over a year ago. I love it personally, but I do think this has more to do with my personality than anything. This person said they'd be afraid that they get lonely. I'm a very alone kind of person. I don't know how much of it is healthy. I'm very lucky that I have one solid friend that lives in my neighborhood, because I do think without her, I would be lonely for sure. And she's from the UK, she's an English speaker, so shout out Nat if you're watching. So that's really, really nice, because like going downtown is kind of an ordeal. Also, where we live now is where my partner is from, sort of. So we have his family, his childhood friends that are now my friends. There's people around, so I'm not alone, but I am alone most of the time. Like throughout the week, you know, I'll see a friend maybe once a week, and then my partner and I live together, of course, and I'm content with that. But I don't think everyone would be. So it's kind of a question of like, know thyself, you know? I did worry a little bit about it, but so far it's been, a year and a half or so, and I'm chilling. I love this space, but I can't speak for others. So like, I really don't want to say like, do it, because it's a very different lifestyle. I don't know what to say besides I'm happy here, and I really like being closer to nature. And having space, I really like that. And like, to me, having space to garden, having an outdoor space for Peanut, being able to, you know, go for walks in the fields, that is way worth it for me. Miriam, who is an old student of mine, are there any really big projects that you're dreaming of, either ceramics or home renovation? I can only think of home reno projects right now. Like I definitely have ideas for ceramics projects, but I don't know if I want to share them because I want them to be surprised. Okay, let me tease it a little bit. I want to start making tools beyond my template kits. I'm not going to remake anything that anyone else has made. I have a few ideas for tools that are not made yet. That's all I'm saying. Did you start with hand building before buying your own wheel? Yes. So I mentioned earlier, I started in a community studio, so I didn't need any tools. When I moved here to Germany, I was looking for a place like that, but it didn't really exist, which, you know, by the way, is why I founded the Berlin Community Studio. It was very much based off of the original studio where I learned. How I basically started again in Germany was by hand building in my apartment, and then bringing the pottery to a studio for firing. So this whole kiln rental thing that I'm always going on and on about, that's how I started. And I did that for about 6 months, I think, all the while like desperately looking for a space. And I got really lucky because a space opened up in like a semi-private studio. It was like 4 people who had a private studio together, and a space opened up. So I got a spot there, and the rest is history. What are your income sources now? Thanks for sharing your work. Great question. Ironically, I don't make a lot of money from selling my pottery anymore. This used to be my entire income, that and teaching, of course. You can buy my pottery, but I don't make much money from that anymore. In order from biggest to smallest, the biggest seller on my website are my templates, my pottery templates. So just like this one, these guys. I sell a lot of templates, and they're also so fun to make, so I am really enjoying that aspect of my business. Other things I have for sale on my website are online classes. So I've got loads of online classes. Well, I've got 4. Do I have 4? 3 or 4. I've got 3 or 4 online classes that are awesome. And if you want to learn from me, since I'm not really teaching anymore in person, that's the place to go. But they're more for beginners, you know, like, so keep that in mind. And then YouTube. YouTube pays me for my views. So like the ads that you see before the videos, I get paid from that. And then recently I started taking on sponsors. It's awesome that these companies are out here supporting these independent artists and making it possible for this content to be profitable for us so that we can keep doing it. Is that it? That was all my income sources. I do have affiliate links, but I make very little money off of that. Yeah, that's it. I also asked on YouTube in the community section. I don't know if you guys know, but the community section is pretty poppin'. Okay, this is a good question because it's a question I get a lot, so I'm happy to answer it here. Any advice for young potters to get ahead of the game in the game? I'm 16 and pottery is my passion. Okay, let me think for a second. I guess my answer would be expose yourself as much as possible to the medium. And by that, I mean, if you have a community studio in your area, go there for sure. Just seeing other potters working is awesome. If you have the opportunity to do an apprenticeship or an internship or, just help out on the weekends or whatever for a potter, do that. As much as you can do that, that's gonna help because seeing how other people work is going to, that's how you learn, right? But a lot of people live in a place where that's not possible. So if that's you, the internet is your best friend. Like, I wish YouTube existed in the way that it does now when I was getting started with pottery. There's so much information on the internet, on YouTube especially, but also Ceramic Arts Monthly, which I guess was always a magazine, but it's now, a huge archive, Digital Fire, and these different online resources. Just consume as much information as you can. Expose yourself as much as you possibly can, and then just keep working at it, I think your drive and your ambition is going to be the key here because a lot of people just won't put in the time. And if you're really passionate about it, put in the time. Also, start building up that social media presence now because when you have a social media presence, you are independent of galleries, of platforms like Etsy. You can bring your own audience and you can sell your work, and that is going to give you so much power and agency. My recommendations would be start with Instagram and or YouTube, pumping out those images, etc. View it as part of your ceramic journey. People like to complain about social media a lot, but before social media existed for artists, it was a much harder game for us. Not impossible, but it was a lot harder. So I personally am super thankful for social media. I mean, you can also do offline, but then you need to work the streets and, develop those relationships with galleries and whatnot. So you need to develop relationships with your audience, whether or not your audience is a gallery or a shop that's going to sell your work for you, or if it's directly with your audience yourself. Look how big this baby is. This is like the original. Okay, they're done. I am going to let them firm up under plastic before I carve anything into them. So I'm gonna do that tomorrow. And then the last question, how did you get your start in a ceramics career? Well, you guys already know now the story of how I got into clay. And then after that, I moved to Berlin. So I made stuff at home and then I brought it into the pottery studio, right? So the step after that is when I finally got into my first shared studio space. So it was 4 people. And there, it was a teaching space. So we could work there, but my job to basically pay for my space there was to teach the kids' classes. So that's when I started teaching. And then from there, I moved into another shared studio and I expanded my teaching. That's where I started teaching wheel classes, like for adults. And then I had my first solo studio, again, teaching more and more, filling up the schedule. And that's kind of where I found that, at least for Berlin, there was an almost endless supply of people excited about learning ceramics. So I can't say this is gonna work everywhere, but a common way that people will transition from their day job into a career in ceramics is by teaching. Because everyone wants to learn about clay. And selling your pottery is kind of something, it's a long game thing. Like you have to really build up a customer base before you can make a living off of that. That's what I would recommend. The only other option for getting into ceramics as a full-time career is working for another potter. So, helping them out in the studio and whatnot. So, Stay tuned. I'm going to show a little montage of how these are finished, and I'll see you guys in the new year. Bye, friends.